So we finally have some clarity when it comes to the tariff rebate checks for millions of low and middle income Americans. Look at this. Will we get tariff rebate checks, and what the Trump administration says? This is from Fox 8, and I am going to give you each and every detail about these new tariff checks and what's the status of these checks. This is not it. At the same time, wages are not keeping up with inflation, with some jobs falling further behind than others. This is shocking because millions of Americans are clearly struggling according to this recent data that we have just received, and I'll show you each and everything in this video. But these new stimulus rebate checks will change everything for millions of these struggling Americans, and we have some good news to share with you. I'm gonna give you each and every detail, but all I need is just a little favor. It takes 2 seconds to please hit that like button on this video. So without any further ado, let's start the video. So let's start with this very important update, and we are talking about the tariff rebate stimulus checks for millions of Americans. Americans are waiting for it, and we finally have some answers for you. Look at this. Wages still haven't caught up with inflation 4 years after the pandemic caused prices to soar and created a cost of living crisis for many households, a new study finds. Do you know? Recently, President Donald J. Trump and Caroline Levitt both said that the previous administration left a mess for them, and this is an economical mess and they have to clear it, but it's gonna take some time. But you need to understand that for this time being, Americans need some sort of relief, or you can say temporary relief, where these checks comes into play. Well, United States Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that although Congress is currently weighing the possibility of sending the American people more money due to tariffs, those checks wouldn't be coming anytime soon. Well, this is from Scott Bessent, but you need to understand that this is not the clear picture right now, because Josh Hawley introduced this legislation that is calling for $600 stimulus rebate check for millions of low and middle income Americans, means $600 for individual and dependents and $1,200 for a couple who make $150,000 and less. But there is one thing that you need to know. Remember, when it comes to these checks, President Donald J. Trump is the one who announced the possibility of these checks. Yes, still the shocker is that a number of Republicans oppose this legislation. And this is clearly shocking. And the reason is simple, because it came straight from the president himself. So how come the people from his own party can go against this bill? This is the biggest question. But do you know, a number of lawmakers as well as Democrats actually support this new legislation. They are saying that Americans are struggling right now and they need some sort of support as soon as possible. And this is a very important point that you need to know. When it comes to these $600 checks for millions of Americans, a number of analysts and experts are saying that these are not enough. It should be higher, somewhere between $1,400 to $2,000, where one analyst said that it should be $2,000, as same as millions of Americans received during the pandemic. Well, do you know, the recent inflation data is also shocking, because just in July alone, the inflation went up to 2.7%. And in the whole past 2024 year, the inflation was only 2.5%. So just in July alone, the inflation went up to 2.7%. This is shocking. But one thing that you need to remember, that when it comes to this new stimulus check, it's highly likely that these checks could come to Americans real soon, probably in a month or two. And President Donald J. Trump needs this stimulus checks to retain his support. Why? Because remember, according to a number of analysts, these reciprocal tariffs that President Donald J. Trump placed on many countries are going to be the reason of severe inflation. And we are talking about inflation that is coming after 3 to 4 months. Remember, this is the analyst predictions, so nothing is finalized yet. But when it came to the July 2025 inflation data, that 2.7% number, it's clearly looking like the case that it's gonna happen. And right here, millions of Americans are saying enough is enough. It's time to do something for millions of struggling low and middle income Americans. Look at this. During an interview on CNBC's Squawk Box on Tuesday, Bessent said that revenue from import tariffs will be first to put towards the US national debt. Well, this is important because according to Donald J. Trump himself, that he will actually direct this money that he's receiving, and according to him his billions and billions of dollars every single day, he's gonna pay down the US debt, which will bring down the inflation. But one thing that we all need to understand, if Caroline Leavitt as well as President Trump both are saying that they are dealing with the economical mess that the previous administration left for them, it means that Americans are struggling. They need some sort of support in this time because they are the ones who are affected the most with this recent mess, according to them, that the last administration left for them. So right now, isn't it wise to give a stimulus check to millions of Americans? Well, a number of lawmakers also support these tariff rebate stimulus checks. And remember, not all Americans are going to be eligible for this. If you are an individual and make $75,000 and less, you are going to get it. If you are a couple, make $150,000 and less, you are going to get $1,200. But if you make over that amount, there will be a 5% deduction. Well, we don't have the threshold yet, but this is what this new legislation from Josh Hawley stated. One more thing that you need to understand, that when it comes to these stimulus checks, a number of lawmakers, as I mentioned earlier, are saying that it should be higher to $2,000. And we can finally see that there's a push coming that will force this administration to increase the amount. But as you can see that on Tuesday, Bessent said that no, this stimulus rebate check is not a possibility or is highly unlikely. So is he going against President Donald J. Trump? That's what a number of analysts and experts are asking right now. The announcement of these tariff rebate stimulus checks for millions of Americans was just a political stunt, just like the $5,000 DOGE stimulus checks for Americans, or is it really going to happen? There's a difference between these two checks. The first one, that is $5,000 DOGE stimulus check, none of the legislation was introduced. Right here, and legislation was officially introduced, and now senators are debating on it. So we need to understand that yes, it's highly likely that Americans will receive another stimulus tariff rebate check soon, but it all depends on the Congress and on President Donald J. Trump's approval. Well, if you have any questions at all, then please let me know in the comments below, and I'll be happy to answer each and every question of yours. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video very soon. Till then, please take care and have a nice day.